Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and to Norway Chess Round 2. This tournament is absolutely insane. If you don't know the point scoring system, quick recap. If you win in the classical portion, you get 3 points. You get 1.5 points for winning in Armageddon. Armageddons are played when the classical game ends in a draw. It is 6 of the best players in the world in the open section and in the women's section. One classical game today ended in a victory. It was this game between Alireza Firouzja and Praggnanandhaa. Every other game went to Armageddon. It was an insane day of chess. So that does mean that Magnus Carlsen is on the board. Because by default, when you lose in Armageddon, you at least get a point. If you win in Armageddon, you get 1.5. We will have a rundown of the full day's results and the standings at the end of round 2 at the end of the video. I first need to show you this absolute barn burner of a game between Praggnanandhaa and Alireza Firouzja, who yesterday scored his first ever victory in a classical match against Magnus Carlsen, and he's done it with his foot in a moon boot. It's ridiculous. Today he plays d4. I believe yesterday he played d4 as well. And Prague also goes for d5. Same approach as what Magnus Carlsen took yesterday. So we shall see. Alireza plays c4. And now we get e6. And we get the same thing 2 days in a row. Magnus played this yesterday. And Alireza plays it again today. And Prague plays it again. I don't understand why. But Prague elects for this. This is the first deviation. I believe yesterday Magnus Carlsen played this move h6. I believe this is what Magnus played yesterday, and then kind of went into more of a normal stuff. Today, Prague elects to play a straight-up semi-Slav. We get bishop to g5, knight bd7, and we get this capture, c takes d5, e takes d5, and now e3. Mainline stuff. We get h6, the bishop drops back to h4, and now g5, pushing the bishop all the way back to g3. It is a big commitment from Prague, but this is more than well played, because in a moment he's going to play knight to h5 and he's going to get the bishop. And we saw something very similar in the game yesterday between Bibisara and Humpy Konaru, just with this overcommitment and the knight going to grab here and potentially open the h file. We saw this in their King's Indian defense yesterday. But we get bishop to d3. Prague takes. He could wait a moment, but you don't want to wait too long because the bishop could decide to go anywhere else and make you capture on a less, comfortable square. So we take like this. But h takes g3. We get bishop g7, queen c2, and now knight to b6. Long castles, bishop to e6, king to b1, queen to e7, rook to c1. Okay, can we just... I can't analyze it for you because I don't know. What on earth? So it's quite clear Prague does not want to go short, right? He's not going to go short castles and walk directly into this massive attack. So that is why he plays bishop to d6 and queen to e7. King to b1 I can understand. I do not understand rook to c1. There are still games in the database. There's 100 games in the Lee Chess database. In the Masters database, there's 12. There's 12 left. Which is ridiculous. And like I'm looking at the top names, they're not names you know. They're not names you know. Like this has never been played this way. I'm looking for names I recognize. I don't see any. It's ridiculous. Why would you play rook to c1? It doesn't make sense. We get long castles. That makes sense. Now knight out to a4. Again, looking for a trade. And if you don't trade, I can put my knight on c5. We get king to b8. Again, understandable. When you play long castles, we get knight to c5. Two logical moves. Also rook to c8. I don't get it. Is the c file about to open up? Are one of these players planning on opening the c file? Because otherwise your rooks are just staring at a half-open file. Perhaps there is a way where you could sack the knight and get in, but I don't see anything. I don't get it. It's perplexing. Queen to b3, rook to c7, and now it looks like we're just going to double the rooks. We get this trade and a4. The king slides further into corner. Alireza decides to double the rooks on the c file. He's putting pressure on the queen side where the black king is, but I don't get it. And the thing is, right, his other pieces can't jump into the game very quickly, so he has to thrust this a-pawn forward. Pragg is meanwhile going to play h5, and to cause some shenanigans on the formerly the king side. So we get h4, takes, and now, his rook is supporting the pawn. Pawn could be pushed. This bishop is still, could be opened with a potential c5 break. You might want to swing the rook this way, and he's got two bishops. So Pragg is happy to open the position up. We get bishop to f5, bishop to f6, takes, rook takes. Now the knight goes to e1. Now the queen comes into e4, and it's weird. You would say, wait, hang on, doesn't this kind of damage your structure a little bit? Yeah, but now your bishop is kind of more open, and c5 could be very powerful at the right time. And this is all that happens. This happens in the game. So Pragg willingly taking a really damaged structure. The knight's mobility is currently hampered, but now there's, like rook to c5 and h3. h3 is not liked by the engine. Takes, and now look at this. Alireza is active, and you can defend your bishop. That's not good enough, because now my knight is coming. It is getting in the game. I can bring my other rook to g1. Your king gets off the back rank, but now look at this. You have too many weaknesses because of the way you played this. Yes, you can play rook e6. I'm going to bring my knight in, even if it's not to the right square. Oh, rook h6. Oh, wow. Very impressive. Look at that. I can play knight a2. Because after all my rerouting, my knight is going to get to c3 and put pressure on this pawn, and you can't defend it. You can play rook to g6. I will take, and drop the rook back. You can play c5. I will take. You can play b6. By the way, pawn sacrifice. You can take again. I will bring my knight this way. You might have thought, wait, why don't you take, and then bring the knight? And isn't this just winning? It is. It probably is. But the bishop could take the knight, and then the rook endgame might be challenging, because white splits their structure, and the black king is very active in this particular case. So you've got to be very, very careful when deciding on what to do with this endgame, because it's not winning. It's a draw now. So you've got to be very, very careful. So b6, we get the knight coming out to b4, takes, but now look at this. I hit the bishop moves, I attack it again. It moves, I bring the knight back. And just that kind of targeting and gaining of tempo on the bishop, now it can't take the knight. And this is going to, and e4 is going to fall. You can play g5, e4 falls. The rook comes in, two pawns were hanging. We bring the king. King comes, and now b3. Putting everything important on a light square, check. The king goes over to e2. You can go to b6, my knight comes back. My rook comes into g4, and now it goes to e4, and now the king to d1, and now rook to d6, and Alireza Firouzja plays a beautiful game of chess, f3. You might say, wait, hang on, isn't this pawn free? It doesn't look like it because there's a check that picks up the rook. There's the discovery, so it is not free at all. So we get rook to h6, now I give check, and the king goes the wrong way. King goes the wrong way, and a5. And you are basically getting checkmated here. There are, no good ways to stop that. You kind of have to play, rook to h4, which is your only way to do it. I interfere, I play f4. You play c4, I take. And Praggnanandhaa Ramesh Babu has to resign the game. He is forced to resign. Absolutely incredible game from Alireza Firouzja. Alireza Firouzja, by the way, is having a phenomenal start to Norway Chess. Absolutely ridiculous. I did not anticipate this. He had a decent performance in the Grand Chess Tour. Nothing spectacular. But the way he started this tournament is unbelievable. And now, the question we have to ask, are there beads in the boot? Probably not, right? Probably not. Just in terms of what we're doing, now I will show you all the results from the day's action. So let's go over here. Here are the results from the day's action. You can see Alireza Firouzja picks up the 3 points. He defeats Praggnanandhaa Ramesh Babu in the classical portion. Magnus Carlsen scored a fantastic victory with the white pieces in the Armageddon. Vincent Keymer just did not have enough time against what Magnus was doing. I'll show you that game in just a moment. Wesley So defeating Gukesh Dommaraju in Armageddon. All of the women's section went to Armageddon. Zhu Jina losing to Bibisara Asubayeva. She had the black pieces. She managed to hold the draw, get the win. Ju Jun, another loss in Armageddon for her. And Humpy Konaru today, she at least went to the Armageddon and she lost to Divya Deshmukh. So the standings look as follows. In the open section, Alireza Firouzja on a perfect 6 points. He is trailed by Wesley So and Gukesh, who are on 2.5 each. Vincent Keymer is on 2, and then Magnus Carlsen and Praggnanandhaa on 1.5 points each. The standings in the women's section are as follows. Bibisara Asubayeva on a clean 4.5 with a win in the classical portion and a win in the Armageddon. 3 points for Divya Deshmukh, that is 2 Armageddon wins for her. 2.5 points each for Anna Musachuk and Zhu Jina. Ju Jun is on 2 points, 2 Armageddon losses, and Humpy Konaru is on 1 solitary point, a Armageddon loss and a classical loss. Just to show you that Magnus Carlsen game, because it was a very, very pretty indeed. This was the Armageddon, so Magnus had 10 minutes, Vincent Keymer had 7. Very difficult to play, and you can see Magnus started with B3. And just before I recorded a video that will be out shortly, he put Keymer under tremendous pressure. Like, look at this, Keymer down already. He started with 7 minutes, he's got just less than 6, and Magnus has spent a minute. And the thing is, you can only do that so much, you kind of have to catch up on time. And Magnus does this really weird thing where he captures like this. And it's the time element that he really plays against here. Magnus Carlsen is no stranger to Norway Chess. And he gets them into an endgame early on with tons of play. He brings the king over and he instigates on the queen side. And he safeguards his king, he centralizes his knight. And like 6 minutes 14 to 3 minutes 22, it is still a 3-minute disadvantage for Vincent Keymer. Yes, he's got draw odds, so Magnus Carlsen has to win this. So you would think he wouldn't go into an endgame, but he does. And then here is the mistake. C3 is unnecessary from Vincent Keymer. And Magnus Carlsen here can play D3. He can bring his knight back, threatening forks. He can get his knight in. Now everything is disconnected. And after a couple of exchanges on the queen side, he now wins the pawn. He's now clean pawn up. He's also still 3 minutes up on the clock. Takes. Absolute precision from Magnus Carlsen. He brings the king. Knight takes. Beautiful move. Knight comes back. And I take the rook. And Magnus Carlsen, 41 moves. Effortless victory from him in Armageddon. Very, very pretty game. And he did things weird. He made things weird. He made things weird the whole game. You can see, B3, it's always in one of those interesting systems. He had the knight there. He captured where he put his rooks so passively and he had to bring them back. There was play on the queen side. For most of this game was settled on the queen side. They had some jostling on the king side, but it didn't matter in the end. He put pressure on an advanced pawn that Vincent pushed too far. Eventually, his knight disconnected the rooks. And then here, we go for tactics. Knight takes e7. The idea is very simple. If you take, you get the fork. And I would be winning the knight back. And you can come forward, but you're probably going to, run into some traps. I'm going to at least take the knight back. You can come forward, but there's check and stuff, and I'll bring you back. And Magnus Carlsen wins an effortless game against Vincent Keymer. And so, yeah, that's how the standings look in the end. Let me know what you think of Norway Chess. Round 2, it was very exciting indeed. But that is how everything looks after 2 rounds. Still 8 rounds to go, so your favorites can still chase. But Alireza Firouzja off to a fantastic start, and Bibisara Asubayeva undefeated so far in her section. So is Divya Deshmukh, I suppose, but she's picked up 2 Armageddon victories. But yeah, you need to win your classical games, and that is what Alireza is doing at the moment. We shall see what happens in the next 8 rounds of action. Cheers.